people say it's just for the elites of the world.
Yes, of course, all the top decision makers are in Davos, but it's only half of the truth. You have, in addition, many people not very well known, particularly not known to the media. I just give you some examples. I invited Mrs. Ahern when she still was a member of the parliament. We invited people like Mandela. I was one of the first visitors to see him when he came out of prison in 90. So I brought him 92 to Davos. It was a remarkable historical event because it was the first time he came together with, at that time, President Clerk. And it was demonstrations that apartheid stopped in South Africa. So there are many of those people, young, not very well known, but those are the people who shape the future.
Let's talk about your background first and then how you came to create what's known as Davos. So, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a middle-sized town just north of Switzerland in Germany, and I actually experienced still the horrors of World War II. I remember how I was sitting with my teddy bear in our shelter. But we were actually fortunate because my father was working for a Swiss company and was also active for the International Red Cross. So we could cross the border at any time between Germany and France and Switzerland. And what struck me and what probably influenced my whole life was to cross a kind of line, an artificial line, the border between Switzerland and Germany. And on the one side, there was peace. And on the other side, there was war. I think it was a very important element for me and a driver to devote my life to dialogue, to reconciliation, to working together in order to solve issues.
And so you went to school then in Germany and in high school in Germany?
Yes, I went to high school in Germany, but then studied in Switzerland, where I did at the same time a study in mechanical engineering. But at the same time, I studied economics, and I concluded both with a master's degree, of course, and afterwards with a doctorate. And so my father felt in order to do real career in business, you have to go to Harvard Business School. So I applied to Harvard Business School, was accepted. But then I wrote to Harvard Business School and said, look, to Dean Baker, look, I have documents. I want to come to the second year. And he wrote back, no way. So what happened was I found a school at that time we didn't have the internet yet. It was a big catalog. I found a center which was called Litauer Center. Today is the Kennedy School. And I discovered if you are accepted at the Litauer Center, you can cross-register everywhere in the Harvard system. So that's what I did. I registered with the Kennedy School, went to all the classes of the Harvard Business School, second year, and suddenly I got an invitation from Dean Baker to have tea with him in this little president's house. And he said, you are the first one who outfoxed our system. From now on, cross-registering will only be possible for 2 courses or for 2 classes. But for me, this year at Harvard, it changed my life because I met also people like Henry Kissinger, John Kenneth Galbraith, and I became much more interested in political, general economic, societal problems.
So after you finished at Harvard, you came back to Germany or Switzerland?
I got a phone call from a famous Swiss industrialist, Mr. Schmidheiny, and he told me, look, you have the Harvard experience. I just merged 2 companies, one 10,000 people company with another big industrial group, the Sulzer Group, which still exists. Why don't you come and you are responsible for the merger? So I went through a hard school because I had to lay off people. But after 2 years, let's say the job was more or less finished, and I asked myself what to do now. And I got an offer from the University of Geneva to do teaching, and I felt with all the academic experience I have accumulated, business experience, I should spend 1 or 2 years teaching. At the same time, I got an offer from the German Machine Building Association. You have been at Harvard, you have business experience. Why don't you write a book for our members on modern management? So I sat down and asked myself, what is actually the purpose of a company? And that's when I came up with the stakeholder concept, which means that a company is not just an economic unit, but a social organism. And it has to serve all those who depend on the company, who have a stake in the company, like the people working in the company, the community that is active in. So that was the big, let's say, beginning attitude. Because the stakeholder responsibility.
Okay, so
I was teaching as a professor, I should say frankly, a little bit bored after all the previous experience I had written this book. Then I felt, why not to create a platform where business leaders could meet their stakeholders, which means political leaders, also the voices of society. I had made some savings, I got some money from my parents, and that's how I started the Davos platform, which is now called the World Economic Forum. And actually, I incorporated it immediately as a not-for-profit foundation because I recognized if I wanted to attract governments, it cannot be a for-profit, a profit-making venture.
So had you made it a for-profit venture, you think it would not